So for me, I'm 57 years old and I've never been in better shape. You don't have to look far to find somebody a lot older than you who's in better shape. I mean, you go to any gym, any environment, you'll find someone who's 60 or 70 and they're in great shape. Have a conversation with those people. Just chat them up. They'll be obviously very open to sharing their story because they're pretty proud of what they've accomplished. And to me, that was the big difference. I know people that are older than me, they're in better shape. I've reached out. I know people that are younger than me, a lot younger than me, younger than my son, that I've asked questions, like, specific things that I got great information from. So again, piecing all this stuff, together, making a difference for me. I'm on a journey. I'm not done, and I'm not going to be in the Olympics, but I want to get to a point where it becomes part of my life.
Welcome to the Driven Dad Podcast, where we celebrate dads that live with passion and lead with purpose. On this show, we'll host some dads that live incredible lives. Being a dad is the most important job you'll ever have. Get inspired by our amazing guest dads that refuse to live life in mediocrity and live epic lifestyles with their families. All right, guys, welcome back to the Driven Dad Podcast. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies the spirit of reinvention, dad of two, successful entrepreneur with multiple exits, and a man who went from dropping out of university to buying the family business by 33 and then retiring from it with a successful exit at 45. Now in his 50s, Terry's far from slowing down. He's the healthiest he's been in years, thanks to CrossFit and dialing in his nutrition. He's got a deep love for all things Volkswagen, earning him the nickname the VW Man, and he's gearing up for the next big adventure, walking the Camino de Santiago in Spain. Terry, welcome to the Driven Dad Podcast.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate the invitation.
So before we get started, I have a question for you. Serious question. Sure. What is your favorite VW vehicle?
I'll give the standard answer I give to everybody, my next one. It's been a passion for my whole life. I mean, my first car was a Volkswagen. I was 12 or 13 or maybe 14, I don't remember.
What was that?
A 1969 Carmen Ghia convertible.
No way.
Rusted,
I love those.
Rusted like back, almost completely back to earth. It was my dad's car and he gave it to me. And that was my first foray into mechanical repair and trying to figure out stuff on my own.
Those are designed by, is it the son of the Porsche designer or the same designer?
So the Carmen Ghia, they would call it the poor man's Porsche.
Right.
Because it looked fast, but it wasn't. Because it had a Volkswagen engine, basically. But the styling was from Ghia, which was a Italian coach building company.
Okay.
So I guess that was the connection. They got together and built these cars.
Okay.
So, and Carmen today, I think, still builds convertibles in Germany. They're still like a coach-built company. And I think they do other cars than Volkswagens. So, yeah, Carmen Ghia was a Volkswagen that looked sexy.
Yeah, it is a very interesting car. You don't see them very often anymore.
No. And I mean, to get to the subject that we started on, my wife calculated that I've owned over 50 Volkswagens.
Wow.
So, it's always like, I see some that I like, so I sell one or two and I get the next one, and then you kind of work towards the next goal. I pretty much have owned everything I've wanted to.
Okay.
So now I'm sort of selling more than I'm buying, slowing down, trimming the collection, and liking more the travel than the actual having stuff. I'd like to simplify and just get away more.
Is there still one Volkswagen that you have not owned that you're like on the hunt for?
I mean, the really, really old ones from when it all started, be cool. It'd be great to have one of those, but you can't drive it. I mean, it's a horrible driving vehicle. It has a non-synchronized transmission, cable brakes, 25 horsepower. I mean, you couldn't get up to speed on any road in around here. So having one would be cool, but nowadays, the way I look at things, because I'm older, is practicality. So yeah, it would be cool to have that car, but if you can't drive it and you don't enjoy it, why would you want it? Other than being able to say you have it, which to me doesn't matter anymore. So I guess the one I have now, I got my old green bus. It's an old 1955 bus.
Yeah, I've seen it. That's sweet.
It's a camper van, so we can actually, my wife and I sleep in it. The bed is like, 2.5 feet wide, so it's pretty snuggly. That to me is the number one practical vehicle for me at this moment, because we can sleep in it, we can travel in it. It's not comfortable. It has no heat, no air conditioning, no amenities. Like, it's basically a tin can with 4 wheels that barely keeps up with traffic. But the cool factor for us is wherever we go, we just, I don't know.
I was going to say, I bet you have a smile on your face every time you drive it.
Yeah, it's the whole culture of the Volkswagen family.
Right.
You break down, you'll have 10 cars stop. If you're driving a BMW, good luck. I mean, really, because I don't know, there's that stigma. But anyway, driving an old Volkswagen bus, if you're down and out, doesn't matter what it is, people are going to stop. Guaranteed.
I feel like, especially the Volkswagen buses, it's like that hippie culture where most people are attracted to it. And there's this like image of a hippie is automatically a pretty chill and cool and, nice type person. So I feel like most people would be attracted to helping out those people.
Yeah. That's the whole spirit. We were in driving an old Volkswagen, of course, my wife and I, dressed fairly normally, not as hippies. And this was many, many years ago, before the kids. We were in Lake Placid, New York, on a road trip. And we stopped on the side of the road in this wonderful part of the city. We were looking for a restaurant to eat. And we jump out of the van, and there's a kid walking by with his mom, and he says, "Hey, Mom, look at that, hippies." And I'm like, we laughed, because we were not hippies, like dressed as hippies, but because of what we were driving, the kid associated, the whole connection. So it's like, yeah, you basically are a part of something when you're driving one of those old Volkswagens.
Yeah, it's like a world-known culture, I guess, those Volkswagen vans.
It's been connected to Woodstock. It's been connected to the Beatles. It's been connected to, sort of the whole subculture change of the 60s and 70s. And, I mean, back in the day, you could buy one for nothing.
Right.
Now they're $1 gazillion, but, like, people would throw them away. My uncle, Jean-Eudes, had a Beetle, and he says it kept breaking down. And one day it broke down, and he said, I just left it on the side of the road with the key in it. It's like, the car was worth nothing. Today we drive through woods and hire a helicopter to get the car out of the woods. It's just crazy how people are connecting to it. And it is deeper than mechanical. It's the whole soul feeling of rolling down the road, and you're driving in a car that's much older than you.
Right.
I mean, our bus is a 1955, so I mean, it's
cool.
It's going to be 70 years old this year. And the fact that I can confidently fix pretty much anything that would break on it, if I had the tools and the parts,
right,
on the side of the road. So, no need for a laptop or a OBD scanner, or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Simple tools and the right parts, and you're right back up on the road and going. So
right. Every time I turn my Mercedes Sprinter van on, I kind of like squeeze my butt cheeks together and hope for the best. No red light, please.
Yeah, those can get a little expensive, I'm sure.
Yeah,
dealership visits are
exactly. Yeah. They're iconic, and I mean, for traveling, like the fuel efficiency of them, and the comfort, and like how high you sit, and it drives really well, and we love it. But yeah, it's like I have this fear of like, when's gonna be the next red light in the dash.
Arguably you could say that the Sprinter vans, the whole van culture, is like the next big like Volkswagen thing, right? Because you go anywhere.
Yeah, true.
Any time of year, because you've probably winter camped in it before as well.
Yeah.
You see these things everywhere, not just in North America, in Europe. You watch any travel show, and they're doing drone shots of like, the coast, and you'll see one parked on the beach.
Yeah.
Like it's a thing. People just take off and unplug, and they love it.
Oh, we love it. Like with our family traveling in there, it's and even as the kids are getting older, it's getting more and more fun. Yeah. And best part is like we're planning a trip to Newfoundland this summer, and we're there for 2 weeks or so, and we have 2 nights booked of camping in a campground, and the rest we're like, I think we're good. Like I think we're just gonna book 2 nights.
Yeah.
We want to just freestyle it, and that's something you can't get that with like
A big
a
motorhome.
trailer. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's worth a lot. Like if you're a bit of a free spirited kind of freestyle person when you're traveling and just see something you want to stop and spend more time there at that spot, you can
find a cool place by the coast, and hopefully it's not on anybody's land or whatever, and kind of park, and as long as you leave the spot cleaner than it was when you pulled in,
exactly.
nobody's ever going to complain.
Exactly. Have you ever used the app Overlander?
Heard about it, never used it.
Really cool.
Yeah,
really cool. Yeah, it gives you like a detailed explanation of where to park, where not to park.
Okay.
Is it allowed? Did someone bother the people when they were camping there? Stuff like that. So it's pretty awesome.
My wife is a very willing participant, loves camping, but she also likes electricity, running water, air conditioning, the simple things. So when we go, we typically stay in campgrounds. We have tried the Harvest Host.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So you're staying at a winery or a brewery or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You pay, I think, an annual fee, and then it's just free. You just book online and you show up, and you can't plug into anything, but you get a secure spot you can park at for one night or two. I think it's the maximum stay.
Okay. Yeah, the concept is really cool.
Oh, we did it. Yeah. We tried it a few times.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So moving on to something else, Terry. You dropped out of university after a few short weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. What was going through your mind while that was happening?
Well, like most 18, 19-year-old kids, or whatever, how old I was, you kind of think, well, okay, now I got to go to university. That's what everybody else is doing. So let's move on. My dad was a university grad. My mom went to college. So it's like, okay, let's do this. And there's a backstory, but we'll get to that later. So I get to university, and I mean, the first couple of weeks when you go, I think most universities are the same. It's a party. You're going out every night and you're meeting people and you're having fun. And after that was wrapped up, then it was like, I'm sitting in a class thinking, I got to do this for 4 years. No. I was smart in school, but not like book smart. So I just went home and I told my parents, sorry, but I can't do this.
Okay.
And they were super understanding. They were like, yeah, don't worry about it. So what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. So I was working a part-time job, and that job became a full-time job. And then I was coaching sports as well. So it filled my days. And then that would have been September probably. And then, so yeah, the following January, I started working for my parents at their business. They had an insurance brokerage in the town here. And I was as rookie as you can get, with no post-secondary education to speak of, walking into an office environment and saying, well, okay, let's figure this out.
Right. How did your parents start, or how did your parents get involved into the insurance world? So
my dad was in law. I was born in 1968, so he would have been in law prior to that. They were married in 1965, so I came around 3 years later. And when he graduated from his business degree, and he decided not to pursue law, but just business, I wasn't born. I was in my mom's belly at the graduation in 1968. So then he did different jobs. He worked for John Deere. He worked for CN. And in 1972, so I would have been 4, my brother Roland would have been 2, and Jill would have been pretty much born, because he was born in 72. He opened a brokerage, an office from scratch. Like, he had one little office on Queen Street, little desk, and one phone, and just him. So that's how it all started, with my dad, like from ground zero.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you joined force with him, you were 19?
Yeah, just, basically quit university, walked in there and said, can I hang around here for a while? And it was weird because I was still living with my parents, so I would see them all the time.
Right.
But the great thing is I get along with my parents. Like, we're very respectful. I was a teenager, like every other teenager, but after a while you clue in that your parents are there to help you and not give you grief. So, yeah, I mean, we'd work together. I'd learn a lot because my parents would show me how to do things. And then I'd go to different seminars and different things and learn the business from other people and figure out, sort of where I settle in. And then I got my license, and then I started doing, more serious stuff. And not that long after, my parents started going to Florida for 6 months. So they would say, we'll see you in May. And I'm like, oh, this is before, FaceTime. And I mean, we had email, but it was like, yeah, I talked to them like twice a week. They would check in like, you're good. Of course I wasn't, but I would say, oh yeah, don't worry, everything's cool. And I'm just exploding inside because I'm 20 something, early 20s, freaking out because like I'm running the business.
Right.
And, but hindsight, thank God they did that because it kind of pushes you right into.
Yeah. Great way to learn the ropes, right? Yeah. And have a guiding light behind you still for like the crucial stuff.
Yeah.
Business is hard at the start. There's a lot of question marks.
Yeah. And if you have people ask the questions too, that you trust, that's where things progress faster.
Yeah.
You're in a bubble. And there's lots of people that I've asked lots of questions who my parents were two of the people, but there was others. And to have that connection and have that trust to say, hey, this is how I do this particular thing. Is that how you see it? And my true mentors would say, well, what do you think? They wouldn't put their opinion on me. They'd say, what do you think? Figure it out. Get back to me. Those were the best people that kind of helped me progress, are the ones that didn't tell me what to do, but they told me to figure out what to do and then go see them and talk about it. Big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So at what age did you take over the business from your parents?
2001. So I was 33, I guess.
33.
Yeah.
And like at what point did you decide that was going to be your path?
Well, my dad turned 60, and he always said, when he turns 60, he's going to retire. So I knew this, going in. And so we sat down and had lawyers involved in how people do things. And it was funny because my dad and I were the same. He had more educational background than I did. He had an actual university degree in business, so he understood spreadsheets and different things. Me, not so much. So we'd sit there, and we had a lawyer who we knew very well, who was there for both of us. So he basically mapped everything out clearly in the same room with both of us there and said, this is how we think it should go. And both of us said, yeah, okay, let's, whatever. So the process was easy, but I think the real hit for me was January 1st, 2001, I guess, officially, or 2nd, or whatever the day was. I'm sitting in the office. And it's like, okay, now I have this huge debt.
Right.
I got to pay. Our second child was on the way. He was going to be born in June of that year, 2001. And we were building our new house. So this was all at the same time. And it was terrible, but it was beautiful all at the same. And shortly after, the insurance market shit the bed. And I had to deal with some pretty crazy stuff. So again, sitting on a huge debt that I had signed on to, and having insurance partners pulling out of the Maritimes, pulling out of offices. My supplier chain was drying up, and here I am trying to support a new family, a new house, and a business that I had just signed up to buy. And it was pretty tough. But hindsight, though, is thank God that happened, because if I wouldn't have gone through that, I wouldn't be, where I'm at today, because that was like the darkest hour. Everybody in their lives, once you get older, you'll have this place that you had to kind of go through with this thing. For me, that was like that, those 2 years. It was unbelievable. Sleepless nights, 20-hour day, work days, just trying to survive, trying to float.
So was there like a pivotal moment or like one big move that you did in that time period that really shifted things around?
Yep. Woke up one day and I was scared and excited and, I don't know, freaked out. I went to Toronto, jumped on a plane a couple of years after, maybe a year, I don't know, whatever. And I had meetings with insurance company presidents. And I'm this little snot-nosed, kid, 30-something kid who's just starting in the business, I guess, of being a business owner. And I'm looking for suppliers. I'm looking for insurance companies. So I'm
What was the reason why the suppliers pulled out?
Profit.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole industry in 2002 or 2003, there was like the stock market crash or whatever. So that affects insurance because insurance companies, when they take your money, they invest it. And they hope to make money off of your money so that when you have a claim, they can pay you and then they can make a profit. And that's sort of how it works. Well, when the investments dry up and everything's kind of going sideways, they're not making as much money. So then they look at who they're dealing with as far as their brokers, their insurance people that they're connected to, and they just take the better performing ones or the bigger ones. Well, I wasn't big. I was a small outfit. And so I got cut. A lot of them just, called me up and said, well, some of them had the face to walk in the office and cut me off. But yeah, so it's like, slap in the face, several slaps in the face over the span of a few months. And then I'm sitting there. I had one supplier left. I'm down to one. So if they drop me, I'm dead in the water. Like I got nothing. And whatever they wanted me to do, I would do it. So I jumped through hoops and said please and thank you, and whatever they wanted, didn't matter. I was going to do it. But yeah, like a year or two later, I'm basically sitting there thinking, okay, now I can't wait for these people to come and find me because they're busy doing their thing. So I went there and met with some people that were kind enough to give me the meeting, listen to my story, trust what I'm trying to put together. And ultimately, I actually came out of it better. I had more markets, better markets in the end. So
that's crazy. It goes to show like how a personal interaction or a personal relationship, how deeply that can affect the bond, like even in business, right?
Jump on a plane, face to face. That's the only reason it happened.
I'd argue even more so these days because nothing happens in person anymore.
Yeah.
So if you can set up an in-person meeting of any sort, it's going to be that much more special these days.
Yeah, I think, the people at the other end will say, whoa, geez, they're coming here. They want to see us in person. So that matters a lot. And yeah, a lot of people don't do that anymore. So yeah.
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 So when you took over, was the goal or was one of the goals to scale the business to a certain level and exit, or did you have like a plan in mind specifically?
When you buy a business, you have business people, business partners, so you surround yourself with a team. So I had a great accountant, lawyer, financial planner, and business strategist. And so going in, I was, they had people that knew what business was. I was a good insurance broker, but maybe not as much a good business owner. And so they helped me to, one, purchase the business, 2001, two, survive through the big financial meltdown and the markets that went away, and three, get back on my feet. So I've always made sure to have people there that I can ask questions to that I trust. So, a long time ago, I heard somebody say, you got to be smart enough to know you're not smart enough.
I was just going to argue that you are a great business person by knowing that you needed professionals in those domains to, lead you through it.
You read a lot of books. I see some books in the room here. Ever read The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber? That was, I think, my first business book. I was sitting at a seminar a long, long time ago, and the person putting on the seminar said, this is a pretty good book, so you should get it. And the seminar was a morning session and an afternoon session. So at lunchtime, when I was done, I went out to a bookstore and I bought it, like that day.
Okay.
Started reading it during my lunch, finished that book, I think, within a week. Not a fast reader. Anyway, so when I read this book, for those who are not familiar with the concept, there's three types of business owners. There's a technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. So the technician is, the entry level. You're basically doing everything. You're answering the phone, you're cleaning up, you're ordering supplies, or whatever you're doing. The manager is somebody who overwatches people like that, but kind of has an idea of what's going on in the business. And to be a true entrepreneur, you can essentially walk away from the business and it still continues to run. That's kind of the concept. So as a business owner, young business owner, this would have been 5 years in, 2006. Yeah. Reading this book and I'm like, yeah, that's me. I'm the entrepreneur. I own a business. Fast forward, a few years later and I read the book again. I like doing that sometimes. I'll read my little notes in the book and I'm like, oof, okay, this is heavy. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not even close to an entrepreneur. I'm not. I don't have that mindset. I'm not built for it. So I guess I'm a manager. And of course, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever, I read it again. And yeah, I'm a technician. I'm a technician from like every ounce of my body is a technician. And it took 3 reads to realize that. So that's why I was not very good at being the high level leader of a business, because I was the one who wanted to be on ground level, talking to people, making the sale, making the connections, helping with different scenarios, finding solutions, and not the person sitting in the corner glass room directing traffic. And this realization only happened after I sold all my businesses. So if I would have known earlier, maybe I would have kept the business and hired someone who was good at doing the entrepreneur thing and maybe have a manager or two to run the operations. And then I could, I don't know, do whatever, kind of help out at the level that I can. But it took years for me to realize that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a level that maybe you don't want to, I don't want to say it this way, but like sink down to, because you see yourself as being the man, right?
Yeah.
Like you have a bit of an ego naturally as a business owner where you want to be in the most prestigious position of all.
First job was a gas boy, right? So we're putting gas in cars and I'm nice to people. You ask questions, you check the oil, you wash the windshield. I loved it. Second job was a short order cook in a restaurant. Same thing, loved it. Third job was a pizza delivery guy and kitchen guy. Loved it. Process, talking to people, making stuff. And then my next job was the insurance business, which, yeah, I liked the process of learning and helping. But it's when I bought the business, everything changed. And I felt, unfortunately, like right off the bat, everything went sour and I had to figure out, the next steps in my life to recover from a financial meltdown. It took everything out of me because I thought I did something wrong, but it wasn't. It was the market. But still, you kind of feel guilty, right? Maybe I could have done something else to get ready, more ready. But anyway, I'm just so glad that it happened today. All that stuff, because it sort of changed the trajectory of my life, my family, and everything else.
Everything that happens in life and business is I like to think about it as a stepping stone to the next thing, right? Good or bad.
Yeah, it's freaky because when you go back and you think like, man, if that wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened. Like for sure, it would never happen if this didn't happen first. And then you go back, and the next thing's like, ooh, okay, wow, I would have never met that person. And I would never have done this. And so yeah, absolutely all connected. And you see a lot of that more when you get older. You sit back and go, okay, yeah, you can connect the dots and see where all this is going, hopefully with some wisdom and patience as we move on. I'm not going to predict the future, but if I see how things are going, then it helps you to see where things are going.
Yeah, that's true. When you exited your insurance business at 45,
Yep.
What was that experience like? Was it everything that everyone always dreams of when they think of retiring? I'm kind of speculating you probably were at a fairly comfortable level financially. You had all the time in the world. You're young. You're 45. Was it a great experience, or how did that work once you were retired?
So, Yeah, people call it an exit. For me, it was just another step. Totally unplanned. Like, I didn't say ever in my life I was looking forward to early retirement. What basically happened is I had my business and I had some other businesses, and basically, I don't know, just one day I woke up and talking to my partners and different things, and I said, guys, I'm out. I got other stuff I want to do. Maybe I haven't figured all of it out yet, but I'm love you guys, and we have this partnership agreement. We're gonna walk through the process, and yeah, good luck. And that happened quickly. I mean, within 6 months, it was all closed out. So I exited everything and stayed on as a consultant for a month or two, and then was basically, my dad, when he retired, I asked him, like, how do you like retirement? He was 60, and he said, it feels like Saturday every day. You get that Saturday morning feeling. So I got that. I was kind of relaxed for the first 2 or 3 months, but then we traveled. We had some different things booked. My wife and I, we did our cross Canadian trip with the kids. We did cruises. We, whatever you do when you stop working. And yeah, it was fun. But then you get back to, okay, well, what do I do now? So I bumped around. I did some consulting. I did some was insurance, some was business, some was strategist, some was, all kinds of different things. I liked that a lot because I could apply what I learned in business, especially from someone who's gone through like the trenches and really knows how bad it is at the bottom. So I could sit in a room with other people and say, guys, whatever you're doing, I can already tell you where you're going, and you're not going to like it.
Did you feel like you had a bit of a lack of fulfillment when you had kind of nothing you were striving for professionally?
Some people think that way. I don't. I like doing nothing. I completely enjoy sitting, by a campfire, and I don't have to read books. I don't have to, run a marathon, which I've done, but it at some point in your life, regardless of your age, you have to be very comfortable with doing absolutely nothing. I learned this from a good friend of mine, Steve, who him and his wife, fairly often, not every day, but fairly often, they would compete in the Lazy Bastard Award. So it was him and his wife, and whoever did the absolute least amount of stuff in one day would win. They had a $5 plastic trophy that they could say, yeah, I won. And it was wonderful to see this couple because they would really take it to the next level. They're like doing nothing all day. And I'm like, guys, aren't you, don't you get anxious? He says, no, once you get good at this, you can do this. It becomes easy. So, I mean, I've achieved, I've done different things, good or bad, but I'm completely okay with doing nothing. And I think people need to do more of that. Do more with less.
It's very interesting. I wasn't expecting that from you.
Yeah, I work on old cars. I got a shop, and I'll go there in one day, and if I do 3 things on a car that takes 20 minutes in a whole day, totally okay with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is an interesting concept, to be okay with, not having to look for the next thing to do or the next big thing on a regular everyday basis.
Takes a lot of work to not think. Really.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Some people meditate, some people do whatever stuff. I just don't do anything. I'll sit in the shop and stare at a car for an hour, and I'm okay with that.
Just appreciate the moment.
Yeah.
Take it in. And
I'll usually turn my phone off and maybe have some music on. And
I feel like that's a super important thing that pretty much no one does. Like when I have my activities, that it's like a non-negotiable. I might bring my phone with me because I like taking pictures and videos of most things, but I put the airplane mode on when I go trail building in the woods here or biking or whatever. I will bring my phone. Sometimes it's for in case of emergencies or whatever, but it's like part of disconnecting, right? Because if you don't do that, you're not truly disconnecting and appreciating the moment.
No, some of these campouts that we do with the old Volkswagens, we have a group called the Circle of Friends, and we get together pretty much every month in the summer, different places, Cape Breton, PEI, and Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. And a lot of the sites that we do are they're not campgrounds. We're just like, we're parked next to a marina, or we're parked in somebody's backyard way out in the country. And a lot of these places have no cell signal. And I think that's a perfect gift, because people basically, the phone doesn't work, they throw it in the car and they just enjoy the people.
Changes the dynamic of the crew also, right? Because not everyone has the discipline of disconnecting by themselves. But if you have no choice, then...
Yeah, I mean, some of these you can walk out by the road, maybe a mile down the road, and you'll get, a bar and check your emails or whatever. But I mean, now I'm not working anymore, so I don't get 100 emails a day. I don't have to worry about this stuff. Turning off the phone to me is easier than it's ever been.
That's awesome. I love that. So I know your son, Sam, quite well.
Yeah.
He's on a pretty incredible path of his own.
He's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so Sam essentially became the videographer of, I call him a billionaire to be, Dan Martel.
Yeah, he's on the way there.
And I believe Sam became more than a videographer, a friend, a family member, and now a partner in Martel Media with Dan. So my question is, do you think, so Sam's work ethic is, second to none. It's very impressive. I forget that he's 24 years old. He, in my mind, is, 30 plus years old as far as his professional maturity goes.
Yeah.
Do you think his work ethic reflects the way that you brought him up in your household?
I'd like to think so, but I think more so it's the environment. We didn't talk about my wife, but I'll take this time to do that. She's the perfect partner. She's amazing. She's incredible. She's the backbone behind everything. And picking the right partner makes a world of a difference. So she's the reason why our kids are smart, like, intelligent smart. I'll take full credit for any type of street smarts that the kids have, because that's kind of the dad's job, more or less. But, like the book smart stuff, like our kids were great. Like they were reading at like 3. My wife was with them like all the time, books and making sure they understood stuff. They were in music, and our daughter she was in the professional hip hop dancing and stuff. And our son played provincial hockey. But there was always the, after school or at night or weekends, the learning the stuff that the school was bringing. My wife is the only reason why the kids are good at what they do when it comes to being intelligent. The grit I would hope would be from me, because they would see what I was going through. Because, they were still young, but they could probably understand, like, dad's working like pretty much every night trying to survive. And, the whole thing with Sam is he lasted 3 weeks in university. It wasn't for him either. And he had a plan before he decided to leave. So good for him. It's not like it wasn't really something that we instilled in him. I think he was just smart enough to see the opportunities. And he had been working indirectly for Dan, doing some work as an editor for someone who was doing the actual videography stuff for Dan. So he was involved in the business, I guess, from like, I think he was 15 or 16 when he started. And so, yeah, for him it was the ethics that he brought to the table. I would hope he would get a lot of that from his parents. But I think it was sports that helped him. He was always a leader on the teams, a quiet leader. He wasn't the, loud, obnoxious kid. He was like, hey, if somebody else was checking one of his teammates, he'd get over there. He was a bit taller than the other kids, and he'd get over there and say, hey, leave him alone. So the quiet leader skills that he had helped him a lot in business. And I remember when he was telling me about this gig that he was going to apply for and go work for Dan. And I'm like, wow, it's pretty cool. He says, yeah, but I'm not the only one. So I better make damn sure that I'm the better one.
Right.
So whatever they had to do, and I forget what it was, but they had certain things. They had different interviews, different projects I think they had to create and stuff. And Sam was like slamming those out. Like, he wouldn't wait till the next day. He'd get home, work till whatever, and just get it out there. And obviously, somebody somewhere saw something in him and they gave him a chance. He was very young. And yeah, we're pretty proud of him.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
I'm proud of him. He's not even my son.
Yeah, he's, I mean, we talk to him fairly often. He's busy, right? So we get that, but he'll reach out, he'll do FaceTime or give us a call. Or he was here recently, I guess, and we went out there to visit him in September, spend some time with him, and appreciate the wonderful life that he's built for himself in Kelowna. And yeah, we're just, super proud, but also happy for him. He doesn't have to do this to impress us. He's doing this because he likes to do it.
I think that's why he's so successful at it too, right? Like you can see his pride in his work. That's what he's made to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And he, we'll chat and he'll never talk about work. He wants to know what's going on here, family, friends, whatever, how we are. But it's never about work. So it's impressive, like you said, for a kid of that age. Growing up, he was always the oldest soul, whether it was on a team or in a classroom. They would, like we had our kids learn Spanish, like in, 5th grade or something like that. Why, I don't know. There was a lady there that was from Mexico, and she was offering Spanish courses, and my wife and I were like, yeah, let's do this. They might use this someday. Well, guess what? He's using it. It's just, I don't know. Again, you connect the dots. If this wouldn't have happened, that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
I remember when he didn't have a driver's license yet, and he asked me, Dad, do you know anybody who knows how to make videos? So I want to learn how to make videos. And I knew a guy who was the guy that was working with Dan at the time. And I said, yeah, I do. And this guy's really good at what he does. So let's make the connection. So I reached out to that guy and I said, listen, my son, he's a young kid, wants to learn. So we meet up at a coffee shop here in town, and I sat down, made the introduction, and then they just took off. I just sat there listening because they were talking about camera, editing stuff, and I didn't understand any of it. But an hour later, they were shaking hands and, we'll keep in touch kind of thing. And we left. And I said, what was that all about? And he said, well, I think I'm going to work for him.
Isn't it crazy how things work though?
Yeah.
Like just, that one thing changed the whole direction of his life, likely.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, again, because he asked. We didn't push anyone to do anything. He asked me, he said, I want to learn that. And I said, oh, well, I know a guy. And so, yeah, again, you connect the dots, and that was a dot that if that never happened, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
It's cool that he was, and he probably got this from you, that he was aware enough that the fastest track to becoming good at something like an art form or something like being a videographer, the fastest path to being good at it is to learn from someone that's already a pro, right?
Yeah, I forget how young he was when he said this, but he said, everyone needs to learn how to monetize a skill. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he obviously heard that from somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, he absolutely monetized the skill. And it was videography, it was video editing, it may have been content creative, because he was like, you don't just shoot video, you got to know what you're going to talk about. You got to know all the signals, you got to know timing, you got to know, the cadence.
It's a whole plan, yeah.
So they would package this together, and he learned how to do that. And that's what they're doing now at their media studio.
Yeah, it's a very impressive operation.
Yeah, we were there in September, and he gave us a tour, and it was like, it's a typical office. You walk around, and then it's like, oh, a squat rack in the middle, literally in the middle of the whole place. And it's like, oh yeah, weights and barbells and dumbbells, and it's like, holy, geez. Oh yeah. He says, if somebody here gets all stressed out and they need to relieve themselves, get some stress out of their brains, go right at it.
Right. How does Dan say that? Exhaust the body, tame the mind.
Yeah, that's his tagline, and I think it applies to everything in life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't matter what you do to exhaust it, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, so powerful.
yeah.
So on that subject, Sam's been another passion of his is his well-being, his fitness. Has he been a part of your inspiration to get in the best shape that you've been in a while?
Absolutely. I mean, Sam talked about this actually recently. He was on a podcast, and he said, when he was a kid, he was on drugs, like most kids.
Mm-hmm.
He had a drug problem, and he said, well, I need to figure this out. So he stopped doing that, and he started going to the gym, and that changed his life, changed my life indirectly. I mean, obviously, because I see my son in great shape, and he's enjoying life. And when we get together, we talk about it. And he's feeding me information. He's got an app that he uses to track his macros. I do the same thing now. Little changes, add up. So I haven't been, going crazy at this, but I'm trying to stay consistent, and I'm trying to be cognizant of everything that I eat. Not to the level that I'm eating only good stuff, but I'm eating a lot less bad stuff and a lot more really good stuff. And,
Have you read the book Atomic Habits?
Yeah.
One of my
Yeah.
favorites.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
everyone in the world should read that book.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
yeah.
world would be a better place. No joke.
We'll touch on books quickly. My son, when he was quite young, so before he went to work for the whole videography thing, I always had books laying around, and I thought, you're running a business, you got to read business books. So I had this stuff, and he started reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Quite young, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably like me. I don't like reading paper. Like I like either an ebook
Okay.
or audiobook, or sort of like on a Kindle or on a screen. And I have a picture that he actually posted a couple of months ago of him sitting at the family computer with a headset on, listening to Think and Grow Rich. I mean, the guy was 12.
That's insane.
Right. And that's again, another connection. If he would have never read that book, maybe the mindset would have been different. Maybe he would have chosen different friends. Maybe his life would have ended up in a different place. So for me, books have made a difference. For my son, obviously, one book made a difference, maybe several others. And Atomic Habits is one that he's read. We've talked about it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that's wonderful. If you read 10 books and you get, a couple of things each, like a nugget from each one, and you apply it, because you can read all the books in the world and not change your life, and apply little changes, not all at once, just every once in a while, change something else. Big dividend. So for me, I'm 57 years old, and I've never been in better shape. So like literally, I've done a lot of things in life, many sports, and I'm feeling great.
That's awesome. What would you say to other dads or men in your kind of age range that, are thinking maybe the opposite of like, it's too late for me, right? I'm not in shape now, I'll never be in shape type of thing.
Yeah, you don't have to look far to find somebody a lot older than you who's in better shape. I mean, you go to any gym, any environment, you'll find someone who's 60 or 70, and they're in great shape. Have a conversation with those people. Just chat them up. They'll be obviously very open to sharing their story, because they're pretty proud of what they've accomplished. And to me, that was the big difference. I know people that are older than me, they're in better shape. I've reached out. I know people that are younger than me, a lot younger than me, younger than my son, that I've asked questions, like, specific things that I got great information from. So again, piecing all this stuff, together, making a difference for me. I'm on a journey. I'm not done, and I'm not going to be in the Olympics, but I want to get to a point where it becomes part of my life. I'm not there yet, but there's people that, like, they wake up in the morning and they have to do certain things, and it happens automatically. For me, I'm still forcing myself to do certain things, but the whole atomic habit angle is you keep doing it, and after a while it feels weird not doing it. So keeping the whole, consistency for me is going to make the difference, but it's not an overnight thing. You got to stay at it and keep pushing.
Yeah, I agree. What's been the best feeling or the best benefit from getting into more of an active lifestyle and changing your nutrition?
Sleep like a rock, like literally. I'll hit the pillow and like I'm out in 2 minutes. My wife hates it because it takes her an hour to flip flop around and fall asleep. But I'm done. Like at 9 p.m., I'm literally done, and I'll wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Most times with an alarm, but sometimes not even. Like I'm up before this thing goes off. So just looking forward to the day. And when you feel better, you do more. And when you do more, you feel better. Like it's this whole thing. So yeah, and to those who are out there who want to change something in their lives, start by changing one thing. And once you get into the rhythm, tell yourself like, one more. So if you're running, run 1 more kilometer. If you're lifting weights, 1 more rep. The whole 1 more attitude, basically, because I don't know, somebody said, if you're physically exhausted and you don't think you can do another rep, you're only like 40%, like wrapped up in like it's the 60% of your mind telling you can't do the next rep. Well, yeah, you can. You just need to get beyond that.
Yeah, your body can accomplish way more than your mind can.
Your pain level, like for me at my age, if I'm going to the gym or I'm doing anything active, 99% of what I'm doing is pain management. Like I'm hurting everywhere. Trust me. But it's okay because I was hurting everywhere before. But now I'm hurting in different places. It feels better, and there's a reason. So I'm accomplishing something good. But still, I hurt like everywhere. But again, a whole different hurt. It's like a good hurt. Yeah.
You're planning to walk the Camino de Santiago.
Yeah.
When are you doing that?
So September of this year. And there's a few things going on in my life that may stop me from doing that, but planning to. So Saint-Jean-de-Pied-Port is where you start in France, southwestern part of France. And it's like, 700 and whatever kilometer walk to the Compostela.
Are you doing it all in one shot?
Yeah. So technically, I know people that have done it. So I'm lucky I can ask questions. If you're doing it on a relaxed, sort of 10, 15, 20 kilometers a day, it'll take you like 40 days. If you're in a rush, you can probably do it in 20. So that, I'm hopefully going to be in the middle. I'll know where I'm staying like maybe the first 2 or 3 nights. And after that, you just kind of wing it.
Okay.
There's a lot of albergue, like, sort of just hostels, I guess, along the way. And you can book, sort of online before you get there. Or you can do the old school way and knock on the door and hope they have a bed for you.
I've heard it's like the perfect mixture of being in nature, enjoying the serenity of hiking and being alone and whatnot. However, at night, you get the comfort and the luxury of like a good meal and a good place to sleep.
And, like I'm going to be doing it solo. So I'm going to be meeting people along the way. And you get to really know these people when you're sitting around a table having a meal. Or maybe you're walking down the trail and they're going to talk to you for 3 hours on this walk. I'm not fluent in Spanish. I can probably order a bit of food, a couple of beers or whatever. So I'm going to have to work on that before I get on the trail because some of the villages you stop in,
solely Spanish.
right? So and I don't want that language barrier.
Right.
And of course, being in that environment for a month will probably help. I'll be learning.
Right.
But the whole thing, I guess, for me is just, I am religious. I'm Catholic. I've been born and raised in that environment. My parents are religious. It's the whole, why are you doing it, right? Big question. Well, it's not a religious thing for me. I think it's more just to prove I can do it. And just another challenge. As we cross off the bucket list, we all have a dream board. I'm sure, I know you have one, but I have one. And it's like, okay, done. It feels good to make that check mark. I actually have a dream book. So I've had this for many, many years. And I'll put stuff in the book. And it's kind of scary because when you put it in the book, for me anyway, it actually happens.
I agree. It's almost hard to explain to people that don't understand, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's like hocus pocus.
Oh yeah.
Everything I've put on that board
Yeah.
has happened or it's going to happen.
Yeah. And I think, doing that, physically writing it down and focusing on it on a fairly regular basis will instill that goal in your body, not just your mind. So everything you're doing kind of is working towards making that happen.
I'm also a big fan of publicly telling people about it, depending on what it is. Like
Yeah.
physical challenges, I freaking love it.
Put it out there.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm like, just signed up for an ultra marathon.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you going to do? Not do it?
Yeah.
Like you're going to freaking do it, right?
Yeah.
You just told everyone you were doing it.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, Terry, if you could give some tips, or if you could give your 19-year-old self one piece of advice, what would that advice be?
We all have these thoughts in our mind. Everything is so negative in our brain. Like 90% of what we think of, like actively all day, is negative. So I would tell my 19-year-old self to just, try to shut that up. Just do something good and do more of it. I do a lot of volunteer work. So for me, it's easy. I mean, I do all kinds of stuff. And I find that the more hours I give away of my time, I get that back tenfold in stuff. Like, people say, geez, you're lucky. Like, this happened to you and that happened to you. No, I'm not. We're paying it forward. We're putting in hours in, whether it's a volunteer fire department or, the Rotary Club or different service clubs. Being part of those things has given me back so much more than what I've put in. So a 19-year-old me, I would say, do more of that. I think people monetize everything. They're like, I got to make money. I got to figure out a way to make money, and I want to make more money, and I want to be rich, and I want to... No. Do good things. Do what you like. If you can monetize that, well, good for you. But in the beginning, when you're 12 or 13 or 18 or 19, have fun. Do what you like. For me, it was cars. Like I'd work on cars for free just because I like it so much. So yeah, just really, really zone in on the positive 10% and try to hush out the 90% negative, because that's going to crush you. And being a teenager is so hard. I mean, our kids, I felt terrible for them. They went through stuff. Our daughter is a wonderful example. She was a competitive hip hop dancer, and she got sick. She ended up at IWK. She was followed by specialists. She had a pretty scary thing. She's way better now, but back then, like she was 13 or 15, dealing with all the stuff. I mean, your kid's in the hospital in Halifax. That was terrible.
Mm.
She's now a doctor. So what happened there, which we perceived as being negative, right? It was 90% negative. Well, whatever 10% positive thing for us was that we prayed and hoped she would get better, and she did. But while she was there, something clicked, and she said, maybe this is what I want to do.
Mm.
And now she's a specialist working her way towards specialty, a doctor, and we're just as proud of her as we are of Sam. These kids work so hard for everything they have, and it's not us pushing them in the back. Like, we were supporting, but we were not saying, you're going to be a doctor. They figured it out. We weren't telling our son, you have to graduate from university. When he came home 3 weeks later from Mount A and he said, I can't do this, I'm thinking of the conversation I had with my parents when I did it. And it's like, yeah, fine, whatever. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. We went actually that day that he came to tell us that we went that day to Mount A to get all the stuff. And we moved him back right away, just to take that out of the equation. And he started actually working for Dan, I think like a week later. Like it was just nuts. It was
amazing.
Nuts. Yeah.
Amazing how everything leads to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Terry, thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks for being an amazing person in our community and an amazing dad. And really appreciate you.
Well, I know this is a great plateau for you to, sort of get your word out, and love the concept. Obviously, you're going to have a lot more guests. I'm very stoked to be invited to be part of this. I appreciate it very, very much. And good luck as well with your family, growing family, and your travels.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Terry.
All right, Matt, take it easy.